Pajama Jammy Jam. How ridiculous is it? What's happening YouTube? Jamil Damji here, and we are jamming in jammies with jam. It's the first episode of this, and I'm so excited because I've got the actual person who created Jammin' and Jammies with Jam, Mr. Henry Washington, my co-host of On the Market from Bigger Pockets. It's so good to see you in silks, my man.
Hey, man, thank you for having me.
Thank you for these jammies.
You know, I had to bring a housewarming gift.
My man.
We're just two guys who enjoy the finer things in life.
I love this. Look at all the incredible threads that wholesale real estate can afford you. But bro, cheers.
Cheers, my man.
It's nice to just hang out with you here in Arizona.
Cheers, beers, and hot Cheetos, my friends. That's how we rock it at the first annual Pajama Jammy Jam.
Pajama Jammy Jams. Henry, first and foremost, bro, how you doing, Beasto? I'm so happy that you came all the way out here from Northwest Arkansas.
That's right.
You and I have got to know each other over the last year, and I've fallen in love with you. I consider you one of the most incredible real estate investors that exist on the planet. You are a go-giver. You are one of the most helpful people, genuine, honest, and also you do deals. You do real business.
Deals.
You do deals, and it's an incredible, important thing because, listen, guys, if you want to learn how to do this business, learn from people who actually do the business. And Henry Washington is one of these people, right? Henry, welcome to my home. Welcome to Arizona. It's good to have you here, bro.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
So let's start, right? I don't think a lot of the people that I know you personally.
Yep.
So can we dive into a little bit of your story, right? How did you find real estate? How did you become Henry Washington, the real estate investor, the prolific guy that does deals in Northwest Arkansas that everybody knows? How did you become this individual?
Yeah, man. It's I've been an investor for a little over 5 years now. Did my first deal late 2017, and I did it because I had a panic attack.
So anxiety led you to your first deal?
Anxiety led me to real estate and then led me to my first deal.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, man. So I did in life, I did all the things that society tells you to do. Like I got good grades in high school so that I could go to college. I got into a good college. I got good grades in college. I got a technical degree so that I can start making money sooner, working my way up the corporate ladder, right? I found my spouse, I got married. Like I followed all the steps that, you know, it's the American blueprint, right?
Right.
Like you do these things, you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
And what I started to see was a couple of things. I didn't have any financial education, didn't even know that I needed financial education, right? So I would find myself in positions, now we're talking like I was making a six-figure income. I was designing software. Like
wow.
I was doing data analytics. Like I had a decently well-paying job and
like spell it out. Like what's well paying?
Yeah, I was making $110,000 a year.
Okay, $110,000 a year. So if you could ever describe golden handcuffs,
right,
I would say those were double gold, 18 karat, right? Solid, unbreakable. How the heck would you ever want to unshackle yourself from $110,000 a year career?
Yeah, and that was base. They would give us a bonus too, so it was essentially more than that. And I would still find myself in situations where, you know, a week and a half in before I got paid again, I'm trying to figure out how I can eat ramen noodles and off the dollar menu to make it till I get paid again, because I just spent more than I made. I had lifestyle creep. You know, a lot of people talk about, you know, you come from the mud. I didn't come from the mud, right? I came from an upper middle class family. My parents worked really hard to give us a really good life, and that was awesome. But that also came with being accustomed to nice things.
Yeah, regular, like
right?
nicer stuff,
and
like vacations and
yeah,
a good car and
all
the
so
stuff.
I wanted all those things before I truly knew what it was really costing me to have them.
Got it.
At such a young age. And so I had them, and so I wasn't saving any money. I was spending more than I made. And I don't care if you make six figures, five figures, or, you know, $5 an hour. If you spend more than you make, you don't got nothing.
You're broke.
You're broke. And I was okay living like that as a single man, but then I got married, and I quickly learned that my spouse was not okay spending all of our money before
Thank
we got paid
goodness
again.
for her.
Right, absolutely.
So how'd you meet your wife?
I met online.
Oh,
We
cool.
met online before it was
that's
cool.
it's-
Before it was the thing that everybody
Listen,
does.
it's an incredible way to meet somebody. I mean, the world is so hard, right? And especially if you're a professional making $110,000 a year,
Right.
it's really difficult to go out and like go to the bar and like
Right.
go and date. And like, really, do you want to marry somebody that you met at the bar? Really, like you want to meet people in organic spots, but it's
Right.
really difficult. And so, this world and our life now, the organic spot is online.
That's right. That's right.
So you met your wife online.
Met her online, and we got married fast.
Okay.
So I met her. 365 days later, we got married to the day.
A year.
1 year to the day we
Dang.
got married, and so it went fast. And so like time went fast, but like the mentality and all the things that need to grow, didn't come as fast. And
Yeah.
like obviously I didn't have the financial education, and so like well, now we're living together and we have one bank account, and she's like, hey,
What's
I don't
happening?
like the way this is.
Yeah.
I don't like the way this is shaking out.
Why we eating noodles
Right,
like from
right.
from the 25th to the 30th, Henry? What's happening over here?
So then we tried to buy a house together, right? We were following the blueprint, the
Yeah.
American Dream blueprint, tried to buy a house together, and I'll never forget the lender called me and said, hey, if you want your wife to be able to buy a house, you can't be on the loan. You're going to screw this up for her.
Wow.
I was like, we can't have you on this. If you want this done, you can't be a part of it. And I just remember that being such a big blow. Like I still feel like
hurt,
that
you're hurt,
gut-wrenching
you're hurt
feeling
from it.
from that call. Because like I wanted to be this provider. I made twice as much as she did. Like I wanted to be that person for her. Couldn't do it. And so obviously I wasn't on the loan, and she bought the house and allowed me to live with her in it. And
You guys still live there?
No.
Okay.
No. Wake up call number 2 was we started to have all those conversations, right? The married couple conversations. What's our dream house going to be? How many kids are we going to have? Where are we going on vacations? Like things that should be fun to talk about. I just remember thinking, I couldn't be on the loan for the house we're in now. Like, how can I tell her, like, that we're going to have this dream house that we're sitting here dreaming about? And I just remember freaking out during that whole conversation and trying not to let her see it. And went to bed that night, woke up at 3 a.m, sweating, breathing hard, just freaking out. Cause I'm like, she's gonna do the math. The math ain't mathing to what she thought it was gonna math to be. She's not gonna be here for very long, right? Like she's
The math ain't mathing.
it's not. She didn't carry the one like before she signed the marriage contract. You gotta carry the one. So
There was no remainder.
There was no remainder. Yeah. She thought it was.
After the long division, there was no remainder.
Yeah, man. It was. I was freaking out, man. And true. Like I freaked out. So I did what anybody would do at 3 a.m. when you freak out about not being able to make enough money. Is
You
start Googling how do I make extra money.
Wow.
And I started to see these words that I'd never paid attention to before, like passive income, cash flow, appreciation, right? All of these terms that I was like, yeah, I need these things to be able to give her, like I need my job plus these things so that I can give her what she needs. And I was like, well, the common denominator I was seeing amongst all those things was owning real estate. And so I just decided to dive into like what that was. And I started seeing Bigger Pockets articles, and I started seeing that normal people, like just the dude next door might own some houses, right? And not have to work as much as you do. And I'd never thought like of financial freedom like that.
Yeah.
I always thought to be financially free, you got to have millions of dollars in the bank because you got to be able to buy whatever you want to be financially free. But
Right.
it's not that. I started to see that I just needed to produce enough income to cover the expenses that we had. Hell, what if I could cover half the expenses that we had?
Right, then your
change
job,
our life,
the whole
right?
thing, exactly.
Like then I could do what I wanted, and it made financial freedom seem achievable. And then I watched this TED Talk, never forget it. It was called How to Design Your Dream Life Through Passive Income. Folks, when you're having a panic attack about not making enough money, and then you see something called How to Design Your Dream Life Through Passive Income, you click that link. You watch that video.
There you go.
You watch that video.
Life hack.
Right. And I watched the video. It was this kid named Alex, and he owned 20-something houses, 22, 23 houses, and he was talking about how the rent from those houses pays his expenses, and he's financially free. And I was just like, if this kid figured this out, like it can't be that hard. Like I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but like, yeah, I'm not stupid. Like if they could do it, I could do it.
For real.
And so I made a decision at that moment at 3 a.m. Like I decided, I said, I will figure out how to buy rental properties so that I can produce the income, so that I can supplement my retirement and never have to worry about like how I'm going to provide my wife these things. I just knew in my heart, I knew this was going to be my way. I don't know how to explain how I knew. I just knew. Woke up in the morning, told my wife we were going to be real estate investors, and she was like, all right, sounds good. And then in hindsight, looking back, when you got your husband who is like trying to make you eat hot dogs and ramen noodles for, you know, once or twice a month, and if he says we're going to do something that's going to make more money, you're like, all right,
I'm in.
sounds good.
You mean more hot dogs?
Right.
Better hot dogs? Are we going to have
So
brats?
she was on board from day one, and I just was like, all right, well, now I got to go figure out how to be a real estate investor.
Yeah.
I didn't know where to start. I called up a friend of mine who sat next to me at work because I knew she was a real estate broker, like on the side.
Okay.
And so I was like, I don't know, she's a real estate broker. She knows something about real estate. I'll just ask her. And I didn't know. At that point, I didn't know investors and brokers were different, right? Like I just needed to talk to somebody about real estate. So I go to her and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be a real estate investor. Like, what do you know about that? Can you point me in the right direction? She lit up. She goes, yes, let's talk. And she was like, let's go to dinner. And so like my wife and I met her at dinner. She showed up literally with a big box of books. And she was like, pick one. You read through one of these books and I'm going to help you figure out which direction to go. Box of books.
What book did you pick?
You know what book I picked.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Booyah! Rich Dad, Poor Dad, every single, and I knew nothing about that book. The title just seemed like something I had heard before, and so I grabbed it. And then I started reading that book, and then I realized, oh, I've done everything wrong financially, right? And so from that point, we started reading the book together, which was a cheat code as well to having your spouse on board, because it came with making some lifestyle changes. The first change we'd made before we even thought about buying property was we just started to pay ourselves first. 10% of everything we made, we put in an account, whether we could pay our bills or not, we were paying ourselves first. And like that was a big mentality switch for us. And then the next thing I could only think to do was find out who was a real estate investor in my area. I didn't know real estate. I didn't know RIAs were a thing, real estate investor meetups. I was just Googling like real estate investors in my area, and I found every meetup I could. And I got in the room and I went to every single meeting. If there was a meeting 4 days out of the week, I was in the room 4 days out of the week. I had to be around
Obsessed.
it. Yeah, I had to be around it. I had to learn how these people were doing it.
Yeah.
So that I could try to figure it out. And then I just started telling everybody that I was an investor. And that's just part of my personal belief. I just personally believe that the world gives you what you put out.
Yes.
Like if you're attracting something that you don't want, you're probably putting out something that's attracting that, right? And so I knew I wanted to attract the stuff that comes with being a real estate investor.
It's so interesting because
so I just told them I'm an investor.
The funny thing about life is that a lot of us think that we should get what we deserve, but we don't. We get what we accept.
Yeah.
And that's just it. We get what we accept. And if you accept out of your life, I'm going to eat ramen noodles and hot dogs for, the last, few days of the month.
Yep.
You're going to get that.
Every time.
But if you don't accept it, if you're like, I'm not going to accept ramen noodles and hot dogs, it's going to give me anxiety. It's going to wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's going to send me to my computer to Google how to make extra cash and how to make passive income and all the things. You are setting new expectations. You are accepting new realities for yourself, and then all of a sudden, new doors open for you.
That's right. 100%.
And it's an interesting phenomenon that we all have to understand. And everybody who's watching this right now, what are you accepting in your life? Like, what are you accepting every single day as your status quo? And is what you're accepting actually moving the needle for you? So obviously, you decide and you internalize that you're going to become a real estate investor. Yep. And so you start going to all these meetups and you start meeting people, but you haven't gotten to your first deal yet.
Nope.
So explain that.
Yeah. So that decision to just start telling people I was an investor, like I teach my students this now to this day. When the first day they're in my group, I ask them to introduce themselves to me, right? What do you do? Who are you? What do you do for a living? And almost every single time, everybody says, I'm so-and-so and I do this for a living. No one says I'm a real estate investor, right? that's what you should lead with always. And so that's how I introduce myself to people. When I met someone new, I would say, hey, I'm Henry. I'm a real estate investor, and I also do data analytics and software development, right? Like, my job came second because I wanted to replace my job, right? Didn't want that to be the first thing. Like, I wanted to be an investor. So I put that out there. That led to me getting my first deal. My buddy is a friend of mine, and he was in a really tough spot with his house. Like, he was working with his church to be able to buy some property to use for the church. And so he had let somebody from the church live in his house, just cover the mortgage, because they were getting their credit together. They were going to buy the house, and then they were going to buy the house from him. He was going to take the profits, and then he was buying this piece of property for the church.
Okay.
Well, the time came to buy the property, and the guy couldn't buy the house. He hadn't gotten his credit together, and he was like, well, I have to buy this. I have to buy it in 30 days. And he called me, and he was like, Henry, I heard you're buying houses. And I was like, yeah. He was like, hey, I got to sell this house. I got to sell it in 30 days. He was like, look, here's the story. It's worth about 140 to 160. I will sell it to you for as is. I will sell it to you for 115 because that's the number that gives me the exact amount of cash that I need to go do this other deal. He was like, I don't care about the equity. You can have it as long as you can buy it in 30 days. Can you buy this house in 30 days? And I said, yep.
Yeah!
I
had no idea how.
No idea how to do it.
Yes.
Not a clue.
Yes.
Not a clue. I literally had to Google after I told him that, how do I buy a house without a real estate agent? And then it said, well, you need to put it, in escrow. And okay, how do I put a house in escrow? Well, you need to put it under contract. Well, what is it under contract? Like, I was just Googling relentlessly.
Everything was just
and then
brand new to you.
Yeah, and then it was like, okay, well, you need a contract. And so I was like, I found some contract online, purchase and sale agreement, downloaded it, changed some names, my name and his name, and we signed this rando document off the internet that says I was going to buy his house. That is a terrible idea. Don't do that. I just say that to show the mindset that, like, I was in, and even though I didn't know how to do it, I wasn't going to let that stop me from doing it. And another way to say that is, like, we make decisions for other people all the time.
Right.
For whatever we want. You'll talk to people and say, well, how come you haven't bought a house yet? Well, my debt to income's not there. I just bought a car, so I got to get my credit paid off and then get my debt to income, and then I'll be good. But did the bank tell you that? Mm-hmm. No, I just know that I need to have a good
I'm
day.
just deciding.
Yeah.
I'm creating a hallucination.
I'm just deciding this for the bank that I
Right.
haven't talked to about the loan for
Right.
the house that I haven't tried to buy yet.
You get what you accept.
Right? Like, we make decisions for people all the time, and we base that on what we think we know. And the truth is, we don't know everything about, especially new endeavors, right? Like, and so I didn't let what I didn't know stop me from moving forward. Most people would say, and at this time I had $1,000 in my savings account. Like, that's all I had saved up. I had mediocre credit. I had been fixing it since I couldn't be on the house loan situation. I'd been working on it, but it wasn't perfect yet. And so, like, all logic and reason would tell someone to say,
You can't do this.
I'd love to buy your house, but
I'm not in the position.
I can't.
Yeah.
I don't have the money. I don't have the down payment. I don't have the credit, right? But I didn't make decisions for the people. I said, I'm gonna buy it, and then I'll go talk to the people and figure out if they will loan to me, and if they can't, at least they'll tell me what I need to go fix or do in order for them to be able to do it. Or maybe there's some other way I don't know about. And so I said, yeah, I put this thing under contract, and then I went to this network.
$115,000 is what you got.
$115,000.
Okay. You don't have the down payment. You can't buy this conventional.
I have $1,000 in my savings account. Do not have the down payment. And I said, all right. I literally sat at my desk and I go, all right, I got this deal. How do I buy it? How do I find the money? Who has money? Banks have money. I'll just go to a bank. And I remember I went to the bank closest to my work. That was my decision criteria for which bank to choose. It was right by my work. I walked in there literally with a piece of paper, and I went to the
contract.
The contract, yes. And I said, I want to buy this house. Can someone help me? And they sent a loan officer over to me, a commercial loan officer over to me, and I'd never forget this. We're sitting at his desk, and he takes a piece of paper from me, and I thought he thinks I'm full of crap at this moment.
He also thinks you're crazy.
Right, he thinks I'm freaking nuts. I wasn't wearing pajamas, but I might as well have been. And he looks at it and he goes, you know where this is, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, I know where it is. He was like, you know it's worth a lot more than this, right? And I'm like, well, yeah. That's the idea. That's why I want to buy it. And he was like, this, how do you even get something like this? This is amazing. And he was like, we'd be happy to loan it. Like, we'd love to fund this deal for you. He was like, but, as long as you got 15% down payment, do you have 15% down payment? I'm doing the math in my head. 15% on one. Yep, I got it. Didn't have it. But I wasn't, like, I just
You're
wasn't,
not gonna let that stop
I wasn't going to let that stop me. And so I was like, all right, I know I got 85% of the money that I need right now, right? Got to find 15%. So I went to that network of investors that I had been building and getting to know over the past, it was about 60 days at that point, since the panic attack to that point. And so I went to them. I remember I went to one of my friends who I'm now business partners with. And I went to him and I was like, hey man, I got to buy this deal in 30 days. How are you guys doing this? Like, where are you finding the money when you don't have it in your bank account? And he was like brainstorming options with me. He was like, you have any other assets you can take a line of credit out on? I was like, I don't even know what that means. He was like, can
you sell the car?
Right. He was like, how much stuff can you sell? I'm like, not enough. Right. Like, so we're doing all the math and all the
good
things.
at massage.
Right. And so he was like, well, you can do you have a job, so do a 401k loan. And I was like, well, I don't want to take money out of the 401k. You got to pay penalties and fees. He was like, no. You can borrow out of your 401k. You pay yourself back with interest. Your employer actually takes the money out of your paycheck pre-tax, so it reduces your taxable income. And then the interest that you're paying for borrowing your own money is to you. So you get the interest. And he was like, and technically you won't be paying it back if you're going to rent this place out. The cash flow from the rent's actually going to pay back your loan for you.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
What?
That's a thing? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, sweet. Now I got to find a 401k. I didn't have one.
No.
I was not very smart financially.
No.
But you know who did?
Your wife.
Damn tootin'.
Yeah. So you go home.
So I go home and I say, hey, remember when I woke up and said, we're going to be real estate investors? And you were like, yeah. Well, we need to borrow 20 grand from your 401k for us to buy this house.
Yes.
And you know what she said?
No.
She said, let's do it.
She said yes.
On the spot. No hesitation. There's
a lesson here.
Yep.
There's a lesson here because automatically I said no. And the reason why I said no was 99% of people out there have spouses who don't believe in them.
Yep.
Right? If you have a spouse who doesn't believe in you, it's for one reason. Because that's what you've proven to them. You've proven to the people closest to you in your life that you're not trustworthy, that you're not to be dependent on. However, when Henry had the panic attack that he had, and he showed his spouse that he was ready, willing, and able to think outside the box, then he went and took action. Then she's seen him going to networking event after networking event after networking event, then gets a deal under contract. She saw all of the pieces that you put in play, in motion. How could she not?
No hesitation. I owe every bit of this to her. Would not be here. I'm about to tear up. Would not be here without her. And so, had no hesitation. And it wasn't even 7 days, Jamil, before we had the money. And I just remember thinking, holy crap. We bought that house, Jamil. We kept the same tenant in it. We raised the rent to market rents. And 90 days from waking up in a panic attack where I thought my wife might leave me because I wasn't going to provide her with the life that she deserves, I own this house that is not just paying for itself, but it's paying back the loan that we used to buy it and paying us a little cash to put in our pockets.
What was the cash flowing for you every month?
Somewhere between, the total cash flow, net cash flow was between $300 to $400.
I mean, think about this. So you took $20K out of the 401k, right?
Yep.
But you're making $300 to $400 a month.
Yep.
So I mean, that pays back like relatively quickly. What's the interest that you're paying on that loan?
That was a 5% interest rate.
So like literally, your positive cash flow every month. So she's just like, oh my gosh, this 401k was just sitting there, and now all of a sudden the 401k is spitting out money every single month. So that must have been a light bulb.
That was a big light bulb. There was a couple of epiphanies that happened after that moment. So the first thing that happened was, not long after we closed, the bank that we used called, and they said, hey, Henry, you have equity in this house. Obviously, they know that. They did the appraisal. They did the loan. we would like to give you a line of credit on that equity so you can have access to more cash to go bring us more deals like this.
Wow.
Jamil, when you go from a panic attack to 90 days later, you own an asset that's paying you, and then the bank says, here's 20, 30 grand to go do more. Like, to see that you have access to 20 or 30 grand when you had a panic attack about money, like, I just became overwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed with joy. Don't get me wrong, I was very happy because I knew I had found the thing that was going to change my financial future forever.
Right.
I knew I had found the thing that was changing the trajectory of our lives as we speak. But the feeling that I felt was an overwhelming sense of responsibility. I said 90 days ago, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going to happen. And now my life has changed forever for the positive financially. I have to share this with people. Like, this is not for me. Like, I have to tell people about this. There are people who look like me who don't have access to information that can change their lives like this. They're thinking of doing way crazier things to make ends meet, right? And I can show them a way that they didn't even think was for them, right? Because a lot of people that look like me would never think to walk into a bank and ask for a loan, right? With a piece of paper in their hand. Like, I had to show people that this is.
I mean, they walk into a bank sometimes with a piece of paper, but it doesn't say, it doesn't have a purchase and sale agreement on it. You know, but I mean, and listen, just for anybody who's going to leave me a mean comment, they don't have to look like Henry. They can also look like me. Okay, they can also look like me. Anyways.
So that's why I started my Instagram. Yeah. It wasn't to become Instagram famous. It was like, I didn't know any other way to get this in front of people. Yeah. I wasn't even a social media like, I hated social media. Like, right. I still don't even do Facebook, right? Like I just have my Instagram and some other things. And so I was like, I just need to put this in front of people. I don't even know how to share my journey. I just started sharing pictures of properties that we're looking at.
Because that's all you knew.
I didn't know.
You're like,
yeah.
This is how you share. Like, I bought this house. Look at the pictures. It's like you didn't realize that. Like, oh wait, hold on a second. Maybe if I turn the camera around, and if I say things, and then I can that took a minute, right?
If you go back on my Instagram and you look at from where I started to where I actually first showed my face, it was like months. I'm like, nobody wants to see my face.
Almost half a year.
Nobody wants to see my face. They just want to see. So I felt this overwhelming responsibility. The other thing that I realized was that your goals are dynamic, man. Because I set my goals, because I remember, I have the goals we originally wrote down. We wrote them we found this book.
Do you remember what they were?
Yeah. We were going to buy
Can you share them?
We were going to buy one house a year for 5 years. That was our goal when we first started doing real estate investing. And when I bought that first house, basically using Monopoly money, and then had access to an actual 20, 30 grand to go do more deals, I was like, oh, no.
I got to up them goals.
No, we did 5 deals in our first month.
Yeah, baby. 5 deals that month?
Yeah.
So you just kept buying houses?
I just kept buying houses.
Turned them all into rentals?
I did, yeah. We turned them all, no, we flipped some too.
Okay. So when you say flip, what kind of flipping are we talking?
My very first flip was an actual fix and flip.
Okay.
We bought a house and ended up, we bought it for $190, we put $40 in it and sold it for $325. Wow. My very first flip.
So that was a huge payday for you.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that in one, like that much money in one.
So what did that feel like? Because, there's people out there watching this right now. They're like, man, I'm feeling this guy. I understand exactly what he's going through. I'm probably in the same situation or something very similar right now. And like, describe that feeling. Like, what does it feel like when you cash a $75,000 check?
I don't know that there's a word to describe that feeling. For me, it was validating, like proof of concept, both in the fact that I can do this, but proof of concept that, like, I can do anything. Like, I don't have to do what society tells me I have to do. I don't have to, walk down the yellow brick road and make all the stops that society tells you to make. Like, I made somebody's salary in one deal, and I just was, I don't know, man, I just felt great. I just felt like, and I knew it was the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. Investing's not easy, but it's not hard, right? I know that might
It
sound
takes
confusing.
a lot of internal strength more than it does anything else.
How you do it, it's been around for ages.
Yeah.
The process is the same.
Yeah, none of us invented
Some of it gets a little easier with technology, but the basic, you find something undervalued, you figure out a way to buy it, you add value to it, and then you monetize it. Like those steps have been the same forever.
Yeah.
Right? The part that's hard is the grit that it takes to not quit when it sucks, right? When it's hard. When you spend $5,000 on marketing and get no deal, right? To talk yourself into spending $6,000 next month. Like that's the part that's hard. Or when you buy a like my very second rental that I bought it day 2, HVAC went out. $5,000 down the hole that I wasn't planning on spending, and like I have a bunch of money at the time, right? Like $5,000 in the hole to start.
Yeah.
Like people quit when that happens. They go, "This is why people don't do rental properties.
This is a scam. This is why real estate is a scam.
You don't make no money.
That genie's a scam."
So the grit and that part is what's tough, and being able to stay on that entrepreneurial roller coaster. Really high highs, but man, really low lows.
Yeah.
But no, man, I knew. And so I was just sharing everything that I could and helping as many people as I could. And, like we all have something to give. Like if you've done one deal, there's millions of people who've done no deals.
Yeah.
So you can share your journey. Like I think people feel like you have to be an expert to share. You don't. When you're an expert, you teach. But when you aren't an expert, you just share your current experience.
Yeah.
Good, bad, right? If your experience was crap, somebody can learn from that. Put it out there. Put your message out there. Somebody needs to hear it.
It's interesting that you say that because for me, so I stayed silent, right? I stayed invisible. In fact, to the point where I became an enigma in town because I purposely went around telling all the real estate investors and real estate agents that I was working with, hey, I'm gonna buy your house. Send me your ugly house, like that hoarder house, the grossest house you got. And I will buy it cash, close quick, pay you double commission on one condition. Never tell anybody my name. And they'd say, what? I don't want anybody to know who I am. I want to stay under the radar. I want to stay hidden. I never want anybody to know who I am. They're like, okay. I'm like, deal? Deal. So we do a deal. I'd make some money. I'd wholesale the deal or whatever, right? And the first thing that person would do was start telling people. Right? And it was like, it spread like wildfire. It was the craziest thing and I wasn't doing this on purpose. It wasn't like some big manipulation. So you were the
wholesale genie.
It wasn't like this manipulation where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get everybody to know who I am by telling everybody not to tell people who I am.
Yeah.
It was more of like, I didn't want to be known. I didn't want to be known. And it wasn't until I became an expert when people were like, bro, you have a responsibility to teach. And exactly what you're saying, right? Because like I didn't share my journey from 0 to Keegley. I turned the camera on when I had already. Keegley was already a thing. Keegley was famous before I was.
Right.
And so it was crazy because it was like everybody knew who the hell what Keegley was, but I was just like this, again, an enigma behind the scenes, right? So it's such a beautiful piece of advice to share your journey through the entire process, the good, the bad, the ugly, because there's somebody out there who is not at your current level or not at your current level of action that needs to hear what you're going through.
Absolutely. And I think people also think of like, I put content out, I want to be an expert. I don't want somebody to take something I say and go screw up. People don't think about there may be somebody who already has the ambition and the grit and they don't have the education. So they're about to go do something stupid. But you put that piece of content out where you screwed up and you saved their butt. Right? Like share your journey. Share your journey. When you're new, you share your journey. When you're experienced, you teach.
That is a bar right there, guys. When you're new, you share your journey. When you're an expert, you teach. Bro, that's like something that I think what a lot of folks have seen, especially in the space of info, is that the new guy does a couple of deals and then decides he's an expert and then decides to teach. And that's where this whole world of like, mentorships and coaching and all that becomes muddy, right? Because you get fugazis, you get people that actually aren't doing the stuff, talking like they're doing the stuff, and then that becomes like the snake pit that we're not going to even like get into at this point. But like, aside that, right? So like, You're now in the spot. You got 5 deals done in your first month, and how does this parlay into like the business model? Because like, you know, that's some people could say that's beginner's luck.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like a lot of people could say like, bro, you had it like 5 deals in a first, like you're like 60 days in. Like you have obviously had a lot of luck, you had a lot of God, you had a lot of belief, you had a lot of, you know, grit to get you there. So tell me about when you got kicked in the teeth.
Yeah.
Like when it got hard for you, bro, when you were like, I want to fold it in.
My very first challenge came with the first deal it was probably my third deal. It was a house, and it was a unique house.
Okay.
It was kind of piecemealed together in parts, and I didn't know enough about construction to know that it was, and I didn't know enough about like what's a real comp versus not a real comp. And so like I ran the numbers on this property. I put it under contract for like 60 grand, and
it was worth 60 grand.
I couldn't find anybody. It was worth a little more than that, but I couldn't find anybody that wanted to take it on as an investor, because the seasoned investors would come in and see it and go, well, this is a little choppy, and so I might have trouble selling it. Also, you've got a brand new construction neighborhood. I can throw a rock and hit, and like they got to choose between my house and those over there.
Big note, guys.
And I had no clue to even think about that.
Hear what he just said? When you have an opportunity to flip a house, and the price point of that flipped property is close to the price point of new construction development nearby, that will murder you. Yep. Why? Because people are always going to opt for the newer construction. They're always going to say, I don't want to deal with the roof. I don't want to deal with electrical. I don't want to deal with plumbing. I don't know what kind of remodel job these guys did on this property. Why don't we just pay a few dollars extra and just get into something built like last week that still smells like paint? Yep. Because we'll never have to worry about that. And so that investor ends up suffering, even though the comps might justify the price. That new development is going to suck away all the buyers.
Yep.
And that's what you found happened. So how'd you get out of that deal?
So I'm a big proponent of, if you put something under contract, even if your intent is to wholesale it,
close it.
You close it if you can, because you told those people you were going to close that deal.
I like that.
And
I mean, listen, I've canceled contracts. Like I'm. Again, I don't cancel contracts on purpose. Right. I cancel contracts because of a material defect or a problem.
Right.
But the fact is, I go into every contract with the intention of buying the house. Right? And so I appreciate that. I respect that. That's a huge note for new real estate investors. Of course, you still had that intent, even though you told that first gentleman.
And I could have bought it because I had the bank relationship to do it.
Right.
But I wanted to assign it. Right?
Yeah.
And so I had to get creative. Like all the things that I'm sure you teach now, it wasn't readily available like it was now. I think the only wholesale education I had at that point was Stan Merrill's book back then, the Wholesale Bible. That was the only education I had. And so
I never read that book. How was it, by the way?
It was good. It was good. Yeah. I mean, great baseline. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to back out. I will close on it. I don't want to, because I don't love this house. Like that's one I want to keep. And so what do? So I had to get creative about who I started to look for to buy the property. And so I stopped looking for investors to assign it to, and I started looking for somebody who was going to live there to assign it to.
An end buyer.
And because it did have some unique features. It did look piecemeal together, but it was also on an acre of land in the middle of town. It had some cool features to it. It was up on a little hill.
For reference, where are you at this point? Like, where in the country?
Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas. And so I started looking at Facebook groups just for people. You know, I had some people generally interested. And then what happened was I went and I had a lead for another house to go look at. And I'm looking at the house, and I'm talking to the guy who was, interested in me making him an offer. And he had like a double lot on this property, and he was like, I really just want like an acre or something, like not too far. He was like, and he was just a do-it-yourselfer, right? Yeah. Do-it-yourselfer dude. He wanted something that he can go, put his, tractors and crap out there and work on them.
An acre of land is, I live on a half acre, guys, and this is a big spread, so an acre is double that.
And so he didn't take my offer on his place, and I just got in the car and I remember thinking, oh, we just go see. And I was like, are you serious about wanting an acre and a house? And blah. And he was like, yeah. And so I called the people I had under contract. I was like, hey, I'm going to bring somebody by if you don't mind. And the dude followed me over there. He looked at it and he was like, yeah, I want it. And I signed him the contract. Right there,
Right
on the spot.
there, on the spot.
On
How
the
much you
spot.
make on that deal?
$5,000.
Come on, baby.
Yeah.
That is so good. So it's like, again, it's that concept that nobody's going to care about your deal as much as you. Nobody is going to care about your integrity as much as you. And the fact that you did not want to literally walk away from this promise that you made, the fact that your intentions continue to stay where they were, but then you were always looking for the opportunity. You're always listening. Your ears open, your eyes open. You're looking for people. You're networking. You're connecting. You're seeing things. You're writing offers. You're not letting anything stop you or get you down. And every time that you put it out there that you're looking for something, it just so happens that it finds you.
People from the outside looking in call that luck.
No.
People who are on the inside call it positioning. Right? Like I prepared myself to the best that I could to be ready to take advantage of the opportunity. Yes, my buddy called me out of the blue and said, can you buy my house? But I positioned myself to be ready to act on that. Because had I not been surrounding myself with those other investors and educating myself every day, if he would have called me and said, hey, do you want to buy this house in 30 days? I'd have been like, I can't. I don't know. I can't do that. But I positioned myself to be ready to take advantage of the opportunity as it came. So it looks like it falls in your lap. But stuff falls in everybody's lap every day. Opportunity falls in people's laps every single day. You just didn't take advantage of it because you didn't feel like you were ready to yet.
You know Dolph DeRoos? You know who that is?
Yeah, I know Dolph, man.
So you know Dolph has a quote, and he says, the deal of a lifetime comes around every week.
Yeah.
Every week. The deal of a lifetime will come around every single week.
Yep.
And that's very true, that you truly can find one of the best opportunities that you could ever want to look at.
Right.
And you can find it if that's what you're attracting to yourself. If you're positioning yourself to take advantage of these types of situations, you'll put yourself in those situations
That's right.
where you can take advantage of those situations,
That's
which
right.
is a phenomenal, phenomenal insight for people to gain from this. Henry, you've grown a lot since that 5 deals, right?
Yes.
Tell us about what's happening right now.
Yeah. So I learned a few things, right? A, that my goals were too small, right? And so I was like, all right, we got 10x those goals. So how do I do that, right? If you want to scale at real estate, you need to be able to solve 2 problems, right? You got to solve for deal flow, which means you got to have a consistent flow of deals to come in that you can buy.
Right.
And then you got to solve for money flow because you got to be able to buy those deals and not
Correct.
spend every dollar that you have, right? I knew I had solved the money flow through the bank that I was working with because they said, hey, we're going to fund your deals. And then at that point, we'd even moved to where they were funding 100% of my deals. So I wasn't even bringing down payments, right? So I knew I had money flow. I was like, I got to find deal flow. How do you find deal flow in real estate? Who are the people that find deals in real estate? Wholesalers. And so I said, I'm just gonna, that's why I read Dan Merrill's book. I didn't read it because I wanted to be a wholesaler. I read it because I wanted to operate my business like a wholesaler, and then I just buy everything and sell the ones that I don't want. And I still operate in that business model today. We are heavy in direct-to-seller marketing. I buy everything, and I resell the ones I don't want. I keep the ones that I love.
What kind of direct-to-seller marketing do you do?
I do all the direct-to-seller marketing tactics that Jamil hates. I do direct mail.
Hey.
I do cold calling.
Keep going.
I do direct mail and do cold calling. I don't do text messages. And I do, I've got some driving for dollars, but, and then my website.
I'm just playing.
I've got a Google AdWords campaign pushing people to my website.
Pay-per-click.
Yeah, pay-per-click. Yeah.
Wow. And it works.
It works.
Listen, guys, I've never said that direct-to-seller and like paid marketing doesn't work. I've always said it works. It's just brain damage, right? Henry is here because I'm going to teach Henry a little bit about the relationship-based business model that I work through.
Yeah.
Not that you need to learn from me, bro.
I always have room
Because,
to learn.
bro, you look at you, dude. Like, you are a juggernaut. Not only are you a juggernaut, you are a host on Bigger Pockets where you went to learn.
Yeah.
How did that feel? How did that feel to get asked to come and be a talent
Dude.
for the platform that taught you that when you went in your moment of anxiety that you went and found?
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden you're one of the stars. How did that feel?
It was a big full circle moment for me. I mean, it felt almost like it wasn't real.
Yeah.
you know, you're right. Like that's where I learned that this was even possible. That's where I saw normal people buying real estate.
Shout out Bigger Pockets.
And
changing lives.
Absolutely changing lives. I remember I went to their first conference in 2019, and I went there, and I try to be intentional about meetups.
Yeah.
So that's part of what helped me when I got in these rooms is I always sit front and center. Like if it's, you know, seating where you're in rows,
yeah,
I sit very
and
front row.
Who's going to ignore you?
Right in the middle. Because that's where like people sit in the front because they feel like they know something or because they feel like they're doing something.
Or they want to talk. They want to be the.
And I was like, why wouldn't I want to be around those people if I don't know anything?
Yeah, bro.
Right? So I sat front and center, like I had to tell myself.
And it's the ones who don't think they belong there. They sit in the back.
Right? And I was like, I want people to know that I want to be a part of this, and I want to be around the people who know. And so I'm just going to force myself, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, to go sit in the front. And yeah, that means somebody might ask me a question I don't know the answer to. I'll just tell them I don't know. But what that did was like people would start to talk to me, and at these meetups they might have seen me a few times, and I'd be like, oh, it's, you know, how many deals have you done? I haven't done a deal. You've never done a deal, right? Because I would put myself in the position of somebody who had, because I wanted that for myself. And so, man, I've always been super intentional. So when I went to the Bigger Pockets conference, I did the same thing. Every breakout session, main session I was in, was front and center because I was like, I got to get as much of this as I can. And I just remember something clicking in my brain going like, you will be on that stage one day. And I didn't say it from a place of like, I just want to be.
Yeah, you weren't arrogant.
No.
You weren't trying to like.
I just knew that if I would end up on that stage, like what would have had to happen in my business for me to be able to be there? Like my business would have to have taken off.
Yeah.
For me to be able to be there. And so it was just a way of me saying like, I want to do this so big that like they asked me to be on that stage because that means my business is rocking. And then this year, 2020, I got to host a conference and be on stage.
You know what's interesting is I saw you first in Key West.
Yeah.
I sat behind you, which is a problem. If you sit behind Henry Washington, because he does like to sit in the front, you can't see anything. Because it's a bad place to sit, and so you can't help but sit behind, like you can't help but like just see the man in front of you. And you heard this laugh just now, right? When somebody says something that's funny, he laughs joyfully from his gut, and like he's participating, he's answering questions, he's asking questions, he's there. He's present. And I remember when I first met you, we shook hands, and I remember your handshake. I remember the way that you greeted me, and I remember greeting you, and I remember you because I meet and shake hands with thousands of people in my life. And it's no offense to anybody that I've met and shook hands with, and if you met me twice and now you were like, do you remember me? And I'm like, no. like don't be sad, right? But understand that it's not that I don't remember you because I don't want to remember you. It's because you weren't memorable, because you weren't being memorable, right? Like you didn't give me something to be memorable about. Like Henry, although he's a memorable person to look at, there's a lot of people that I've met that look like Henry that I don't remember. And the thing about it is that I remembered you because of who you are. I remembered you, and you weren't on Bigger Pockets then.
No.
You did not have a social media presence then.
It was very
small.
Green.
It was very green because I remember like looking you up, and I remember like, okay, who is this dude? You know, like checking it out. I'm like, oh, he's like, you know, he's like doing his thing. It's cool. It's
He's
like,
a dude.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
But like you were just so kind. You were so genuine, and you were so humble, and you were so just ready to soak in everything that was happening in that room. And I felt a kinship to you. I felt like, oh, this guy, I like him. I liked you. I liked you from that time. And that's like a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then it just so happens that you and I end up in a casting situation where we end up being potential talent for Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
And you and I ended up being on the same
like
audition.
Pre-panel. Yeah, audition.
It was an audition. We auditioned for Bigger Pockets together, and we vibed. Like we had it was like, yo, what's happening? What are you doing? And it's like, and we truly connected, and it was from that original meeting that like you never know who you're gonna meet. You never know who you're gonna shake hands with. So be good to people, guys. Never discount somebody. Never not look somebody in the eye. Never tell yourself that you're better or bigger or more important than somebody, regardless of what your situation is or your position in life, because you never know where someone is going to catapult themselves to. And Henry Washington catapulted himself to a position of power. And my brother, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I love you. I'm so grateful to be your friend. I'm so grateful to be your co-host. I'm so grateful to just be a part of the world of Henry Washington.
Thank you.
Now,
Well, you wouldn't be wearing such cool PJs if you
Now,
weren't,
guys,
so,
if you're wondering why the heck we're wearing these slick-ass Hugh Hefner-style pajamas, okay? Henry is staying at my house, so we're going to be hanging out for the next few days, shooting some content for y'all, and then we're going to be speaking together in Fresno at an event. And it's an incredible thing. Henry and I have become real friends. He's going to be at the premiere for Triple Digit Flip. Like, this is my dude. And guys, we want to connect with you. We want to know you. We want to be a part of your world, and you want to be a part of our world. But you need to know how to find Henry.
That's right.
So, Henry, I know that you don't do YouTube. I know that you don't do Facebook.
Yep.
Where can the people watching right now get a hold of Henry, and how can they connect with you? How can they do business with you? How can they be your friend?
You can find me on Instagram mostly. I'm at the Henry Washington on Instagram. Same thing on TikTok. I've got a website, henrywashington.com, and I've got a free book there you can go check out. But Instagram's the best place. Reach out, send me a message. We try to talk to as many people as we can, try to help as many people as we can. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Now, before we end, okay?
Yeah.
I want from your heart,
Yep.
okay? One piece of advice, because there's somebody out there right now who's struggling. There's somebody out right now who's suffering. If there was, and there's somebody out there who's beginner Henry, who's woke up with anxiety, he's worried, he doesn't know how he's gonna pay the bills, he doesn't know how he's gonna take care of his wife, he doesn't know how he's gonna take care of his kids. What are you gonna say to that man right now? What are you gonna say to that woman right now?
I'm gonna give you 2 pieces of advice. One mindset based and one practical application. The mindset is like, I know that feeling. I know that scary feeling. But the thing that changed everything for me wasn't any actual application of real estate. It wasn't that I learned how to find the best deals. It wasn't that I found a big bag of money from the bank. The thing that changed my life was I decided at 3 a.m. Decision, decide. Like, when you break that word down, it literally means no other options. Everything else is dead. Side, like suicide.
It's
decide.
Done.
It's done. This is it. Plan A, no plan B, right? And I truly decided. I said, this kid did it, I can figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to be a real estate investor, and I meant it. So whatever this thing is for you, whether it's real estate, whether it's business, whether it's whatever, you have to decide that you not only are going to do it, but that you're going to be good at it. Tell yourself, I will be a successful fill in the blank. Write it down 3 times a day, every morning. Just wake up and say, I will be a successful real estate investor. Write it down 3 times. You don't have to know how to even take your next step into real estate investing. Write that down 3 times every morning. What that does is we tell our brains how to help us, right? In society, we don't teach decision, we teach try, right? Even as a kid, they say, you should try that. Try it. And if you fall down, you get back up, you try again, right? Try just means I'm telling my brain I'm gonna do it until something happens. And then you fulfilled what you told your brain you were gonna do. You told your brain you were gonna try, you tried. I did it. I tried. It's done. But if you decide, you're saying, I'm not done until my end result is here, no matter what happens between when I started and where I'm at now. And so when you tell your brain that, it starts to help you. It's your ally. It will help you find things, hear things, listen for things that can help you take that next step, right? Everybody, you know, it's the, I forget what they call it, but it's the red truck, right? Like if you never
confirmation
owned
bias.
a red truck, right?
It's like you. Well, is it confirmation bias? Is
Is
that what it is? It's like when you say, hey, I want to buy a Jeep.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you buy a Jeep, and then there's just Jeeps everywhere.
Every other car's a Jeep.
Yeah.
There's no more Jeeps that day than there was the day before.
Whatever it is, leave it in the comments.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no more Jeeps today than there was yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
But now you see them.
But now you just see them everywhere because you told your brain to look for them.
Yes, sir.
So tell your brain how to help you. Decide, I will be a successful investor. Write it down 3 times. I promise you, if you don't know how to get the money, if you don't know how to take the next step, if you don't know how to find the deal, if you're writing that down 3 times every day, you're going to hear a talk like this. You're going to see something on YouTube like I did. You'll be at a restaurant and overhear some dude talking about how he's buying his properties, and you'll be like, that's it. That's my thing. I can do that. That's how I'm going to do it, right? But you got to give your brain the chance to help you. So make a decision and truly mean it. Don't try. Try and get you nowhere. You got to decide. The practical application to apply is to find the lowest common denominator. So with real estate, what's cool about it is it's flexible. There's a billion types of assets to buy. There's a bunch of different ways to fund them. You can use bank money and private money and Jamil's money, right?
Yeah.
And right, there's and so when you're new, it's overwhelming to think, I don't want to have to go learn about every single thing before I figure out what's for me. So put the blinders on. What's the lowest common denominator to success in real estate, right? If you want to flip houses, wholesale houses, Airbnb houses, rent houses, you have to find something at a discount. You have to find a deal. The deeper the discount, the more exit strategies you have. So don't worry about if you're going to be the wholesaler or if you're going to be the flipper. Like, all you have to worry about is learning, what does a good deal look like in the market I want to buy property in, right? So go figure that out. Go to investor meetups. Ask somebody like me or Jamil, what did your last deal look like? What'd you buy it for? Did we not just sit here and talk about deals?
100%.
We're experienced investors, and you were like, hey, what'd you buy that for? Yeah. Right? Like, we will tell you.
Who get interested?
Right.
Like, I want to know. We're talking about off camera. We're like, hey, wait, you got a deal I can fund?
Right.
Like, legit, like, we're in this. I'm like, I know Henry's got money, but I'm like, hey, bro, can I get in on one of your deals?
Right.
And now all of a sudden, he's got a private money lender. He didn't ask.
Right.
He didn't ask. It came to him. You see how this works?
So just go talk to investors and ask them about their last deal. That does a couple of things. A, it's building great rapport for you because human nature takes over. People love talking about themselves. So as they're talking about themselves to you, talking about their successes and what they bought a house for and what they're making on the sale and the rent, like, they're starting to build some rapport with you, and you haven't said a word other than what are you doing for, what would your last deal look like? But now you've learned where this successful investor buys this property, what price point he's buying them at, what price point he's selling them at, or what price point he's renting them at. You're getting all this information. Do that over and over again. You'll start to understand what a good deal looks like in your market. And then pick one strategy to find good deals, whatever it is. Whether you're going to use network marketing like Jamil teaches, or direct mail, or cold calls, or here's the secret. Every one of those methods work. They all work. Every single one of them works. Some cost more money, some take more work, right? But they all work. Pick the one that you feel like fits your personality the best and your budget the best. Because you have to be able to fund it appropriately if it's a strategy that takes money, right? Because if it's going to take you $1,000 a month to get a deal from a strategy and you can only afford to give it $200 to $300, don't do it. You're throwing your money down the drain, right? Pick the one that you can afford to fund appropriately and that fits your personality. If you are not a salesperson, you suck at being on the phone. Don't lie to yourself and say, well, I'm going to power through and make cold calls. No. Pick something else or pay somebody to do the cold calling for you. Right. Don't, people lie to themselves, I'm going to push through, and no, you're bad at it. Like, do something you're good at.
Yeah.
And
I put Bobby on the phone. I'll never do that again.
I don't want your stupid house anyway.
I love you, Bobby.
And then relentlessly, consistently push that method until it produces fruit. Once you get a deal, it'll change your life. And then you can pick the strategy you want to because you can fund it better.
Oh, man.
That's it.
Henry Washington.
Thank you, Jamil.
It's a pleasure. Guys, if you want to see more of Jammin' with Jammies, I think this is a cool concept. I think this is a cool show.
Jamil's Pajama Jammy Jam.
Jamil, you know what? We got to call it what you call it. Jamil's Pajama Jammy Jam. If you want to see more of Jamil's Pajama Jammy Jam, I'll invite some other prolific wholesalers, real estate investors, developers to my house to sleep over in jammies, and we'll do more of these types of shows. Leave us a comment and let us know if you thought this vibe was cool. If you thought this vibe was full, then blame Henry. If you thought this was cool, then say, hey, I want to see more of you. I want to see more of your taco meat, and we will give you what you want.
Look, I want to say, since I'm the first, you got to retire my jammies. I want to see them in a shadow box up on the wall.
Listen, your jammies, I'm going to keep your jammies. I'll never wash them. They're going to be in a frame, guys. If you ever want to come and see Henry Washington's jammies, they're at my house. You got to get to my house, though. Guys, again, go follow Henry Washington on IG. The link or the description, the description has the IG address in it. Just go follow it.
Click the things, you know what it is.
Click the things. Guys, we love you. God bless you. Take care, my man.
Thank you, sir.
My dude. All right, peace. We out. Eat some Cheetos, homie. Thanks for watching another one of my YouTube videos. Now it's your turn to go out and take some action. But before you do, like and subscribe to my channel because the law of reciprocity means you owe me, bitch.